Hi, everyone. Welcome to our latest edition of SuperNova Commencements. I'm Kashi Sehgal, your host, and we have a very exciting show for you today. Someone who is super hard to get because she's always in demand. But I want to welcome all of you, and I hope your weeks are going well. We are streaming everywhere on the web, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, all the places. So spread the word. You can find us everywhere. But I'm going to bring up our guest, Jewel Burks Solomon. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you. So, students, as I mentioned, Jewel speaks all over the world. And really, it's a treat for us to have her today. So, she has quite the resume. And I don't even think she needs a resume anymore, but we'll just go through some of her accomplishments. Okay. She is head of startups head of Google, startups for Google. She is managing partner and co-founder of Collab Capital. She worked at Amazon. She started a company called PartPick, and it did very well. We're going to go through all of this today, but she really is the ultimate entrepreneur, investor, founder. So it's really cool that she's here. So thanks, Jewel.
Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just kick things off. So you're from Nashville. Where did you go to school? Who was your graduation speaker? What did you major in? Like, give us some thoughts on who you were as a student.
Yes. So originally from Nashville. If anyone out there watching is from Nashville, I went to Hume-Fogg Academic Magnet High School in Nashville. I attended Howard University for college. And it's funny, I actually didn't have a commencement speaker because I graduated from school early and didn't go back to walk. So I didn't have that great experience of a commencement speaker. So I can kind of relate to the class of 2020 that many of them didn't have a chance to get a great commencement speaker this year because of the circumstances. But I will say one fun fact. My younger brother graduated from college this year, and I had the chance to go. They delayed their graduation ceremony, and so I had a chance to go. And his commencement speaker was Deion Sanders, which was pretty cool because Deion Sanders was also in his graduating class. He went back to school at Talladega College, where my brother just graduated from. And so it was like a surprise that Deion was there on stage, also getting his degree, but he also addressed the class. So that was
primetime Deion Sanders. Yes. For everybody who doesn't know who that is, he played for the Falcons. He also played, didn't he play baseball too?
I want to say maybe, yeah.
He tried it.
Yeah.
But he was quite a football superstar. He had quite the personality. So larger than life.
Yes, so definitely. That was a couple months ago. So that was pretty cool to be able to.
That's awesome.
That. Yeah.
So tell us about your path. How did you get from, so how did you get from school to where you are today?
So
just high level.
Yeah. So after I graduated from school, I moved out to Silicon Valley to work at Google. So I had interned at Google the summer after my sophomore year. And I got so excited about being in the technology industry and working at a company like Google that's the reason I decided to graduate early, because I wanted to go back because I loved it so much. So I started at Google full time, and then really enjoyed the work there. I was working in sales at the time. I say really enjoyed it, but it was actually just a great learning experience. I can't say that I truly loved kind of being on the phone all day, every day, trying to sell customers on using Google tools and products, but it was a really great foundational job for me. But actually got really, homesick. I didn't want to be living out in California, so far from my family after a couple years. So then I decided to move to Atlanta, which is where I am now. And I took another role working at a company called McMaster Car. And that's where I discovered that there was this big problem in the part search world. And that's kind of how I came up with the idea for my startup. So lots happened in a short period of time, but I think the most important thing to mention is just that it was great for me to get that experience in Silicon Valley. It really opened my eyes to the possibilities as far as building something from nothing, building something from an idea. And that was really the seed that was planted for me to go on and eventually start my own startup as well.
Were you cold calling?
Yes, I was.
Always fun.
100 calls a day. That was the goal.
It's like the best training though, because you really have to learn how to get your point across quickly and learn how to be persuasive quickly. So, and take a no and move on. So like so many life lessons, even though cold calling is horrible, you really learn a lot.
Yeah, so I did not fully appreciate it until I started pitching investors. And then I realized like, oh, I built tough skin when I was having to call people and hear no every single day. So it was actually really good preparation.
That's right. So don't worry if you're starting out at a job and you're cold calling, because it's great experience and you will thank yourself later, right? Yeah. Right. Okay. So you mentioned starting your own company. It's called Part Pick. What made you decide to start your own company? Like, what was the impetus for just diving in and launching something? You were working at a company at the time.
Yes. The impetus was I saw a big problem and I thought that I was uniquely positioned to solve it. So the problem I saw was that customers were having a really difficult time finding the exact right part they needed for whatever, project or repair that they were working on. And they didn't really have the best tools to be able to find the part. So at that time, and this is in 2012, the number one tool customers had to find products was a big, you guys are probably not familiar with phone books, but phone books catalog, huge catalog that they could use to search for products. And coming from Google, I thought, this should be virtual. This should be something that's online. And it should be really easy. People should be able to search via an app of some sort when they're looking for these products. So at that time, this was kind of a new and novel concept for people to be able to not just search with an app, but actually use visual search in order to find these products. And so that was really the impetus to the idea, was just the fact that I knew about the customer problem, given that I was working in the industry. And I had a special connection to the problem because I was working in the call center. So again, on the phones, this time the person who got the escalations when customers were getting the wrong products. So I was basically getting yelled at every day in my job. And
wow, you had great training.
Yeah, so that wasn't so fun. So I wanted to create an easier way. And then separately, I had a personal story. My grandfather called me searching for a part for his tractor, and I could not find this part. And it was a big deal because he was in the middle of a harvest. And so his tractor broke down. He needed to find the part for it, and he couldn't find it. And I couldn't find it. And that was really frustrating for me. And my grandfather is like the dearest person to me. So I really wanted to create a solution that would work for him. So when I was thinking about Part Pick, I wanted to be super simple, really easy, just press a button, take a picture, get an answer. And that's really the reason I decided to pursue it.
So, I mean, it sounds like it was born out of a need that you started this.
Yes.
And you saw an opportunity. Are you technical? It sounds like a very technical company.
So when I started, I would say no, I was not technical. I didn't go to school for engineering because I've now been in the space it's been, 8 or 9 years since Parpic started, I think I've earned some badges when it as it relates to being technical, even though I didn't get a degree for it. Been through so many iterations of product development and testing and everything, and I had to get hands-on with it. So I know my fair share about computer vision technology, machine learning, all the things that went into building Parpic. But no, at the time I did not have that background, and I had to figure out, okay, I have this idea. The idea is pretty simplistic, but the execution of the idea is really, really technical, very, very challenging. So I had to find people who could help me with building it out. And lucky for me, I was right around the corner at the time, living right around the corner from Georgia Tech. And I had read that Georgia Tech had a great program for digital signal processing, machine learning, computer vision, all the things that I would need to build out the product. So I just went to Georgia Tech and
cold call.
Tried to meet people who could help me with building out the technology. And started having conversations, meet one person, they'll introduce me to another person, that person introduced me to another person. And finally, I was able to find people who had a shared interest in what I was trying to build, but also had the skill set and some availability to help me. And so that's really kind of how the initial team was formed.
So you don't have to be technical. I asked that for a reason. You don't have to be technical to start a tech startup. I mean, there's so many skills that you bring to the table, and those are all equally valuable. But learning how to put the right team together, which is what you did, is such a skill. And it's just about identifying people that can help, right? And just putting yourself out there and asking and networking.
Yeah, I think the biggest that part about putting yourself out there is really important to reiterate, because I think a lot of times people, when they come up with ideas, they're very nervous to share those ideas. They're fearful that someone might take the idea, or that they won't be able to find the right people. But you have to be okay with putting yourself out there, explaining to people what you're doing. And as the CEO or the founder, it's your responsibility to really sell that vision. So going back to those sales skills from cold calling, that came in handy again, even when it came to trying to tell people about what I wanted to do and get them on board.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so this company of yours, Parpic, you did very well with it. You built a very successful company, and then you sold it. So I have a few questions related to that. First of all, how did it feel to sell this company? Like, what did it feel like when you actually signed that contract? And then what was it like to be thrown back into the corporate world? How did you navigate different work styles and just like a change of environment from being your own boss to not being your own boss?
Yes. So selling a company, I would say, is a very emotional experience. And the reason is because you put so much of your time, your love, your energy, your passion, everything into getting the company off the ground and building it up and building the team around it. So it's an interesting kind of emotional roller coaster when someone comes in and says, oh, I want to buy this. And you're not quite sure, are they going to treat it in the same way that you did? Are they going to have the same care towards it that you had? What's going to happen to it after the sale is done? So for me, it was just extremely emotional, and it was, very high highs as far as the fact that, wow, there's this huge company like Amazon that is seeing the value in what we've built. But then there's a low of, well, this isn't exactly what I expected. I anticipated running the company for much longer than we did. We were still pretty early when we sold it. So it was a lot to juggle. And if you can imagine, at the time I was relatively young, only 27 years old when I was going through the process of selling the business. So it was a lot for me to manage on my own, as far as even just the negotiation between me and the corporate development person at Amazon. So lots happening, I would say, from an emotional perspective during that time. It was just, man, so much. But at the end of the day, I felt like this is the right thing to do. And it is, for me, it was a huge achievement because there's so many things that could go wrong in the negotiation process, and deals fall through all the time. So to get it to a point where we actually close the deal and then further join Amazon, to your second question, and I was able to bring my entire team on to join Amazon, continue on with the development of the technology, and then integrating the technology into the Amazon mobile app, and then launching it out to the world. That whole experience for me was really challenging, but also just a really great learning experience. And now kind of helps me to be able to work with other founders and come from a place where I know exactly what I'm talking about when I can, bear witness to the things that have happened all along the journey at every single point, and kind of speak with authenticity about what that journey really looks like. So lots of emotions in it, really, really hard decisions that had to be made. But at the end of the day, I'm really happy that, I was able to do that and can now kind of speak to what that experience feels like, and really help other people along in it if they do make the decision that they want to sell their business one day.
Yeah. And so navigating the change of work style, was it easy to go into that environment, or, how did you deal with having a boss, right? As an entrepreneur, that can be hard.
Yes, it is hard, especially when you've, become a little set in your ways. You know exactly what you want. You have a strong vision as far as where you want the company to go. It could be really challenging to have to report to anyone and consider what they want and kind of consider a larger team. And for me, it was really hard. I mean, Kashi, I've probably had several lunches where I was complaining about what the experience was like for me. And I really had to make a hard decision of even just sticking around for the amount of time that I did, because it was so difficult. But again, in everything, even the hard experiences, I think there's a lot of learnings that I was able to take from the 3 years that I spent at Amazon. And the thing that I'm proudest of is less about my own experience and more about being able to help my entire team transition into Amazon, and now seeing them flourish in different roles and responsibilities. Many of them have been promoted since we were acquired. And that to me was kind of that's how I dealt with the fact that I personally wasn't too keen on being there. Was more so, let me focus on the development of my team and getting them in a good place. That's where I wanted to focus my energy. But for me as an entrepreneur, it's always challenging. Even today, it's still challenging to work in a large corporation, where, sometimes people might agree with my vision for things. Sometimes they may not. And I always have to make compromises based on the fact that, it's just a different setting and I don't get to make all the final decisions. But I do think it's been great for me to kind of weave in and out of being in a major corporation versus kind of running my own thing. And I learn a lot from both scenarios.
Yeah. Okay. So you definitely have to learn how to be flexible. That's true for many things in life. All right. So there's some big news that happened this week, and you are very much the reason for this news. So I don't want to wait too much longer to talk about it. You started a company, a fund called Collab Capital, which is an investment fund to connect Black founders to financial capital and social capital that they need so that they can be successful. But you're also head of Google for Startups, and you have figured out a way to take your interest in helping Black founders and navigate that through your position at Google. Can you talk about the impact that you had this week and what that really means for founders?
Sure. So on Tuesday, we announced the 76 recipients of our Black Founders Fund. And we were able to partner with a local Atlanta-based organization, Goody Nation, Kashi, I know you're familiar with Goody Nation, but they do great work. And so they are helping us as far as facilitating the funds to all of the recipients. But this is just really impactful and important because, number one, these 76 recipients received between 50, some of them received 50,000, some received $100,000 for their business. And the most important part for all of it, in my opinion, is that it's non-dilutive funding, meaning that we did not take any equity in their companies, but we are maintaining a strong relationship with all of these businesses, helping them not just with the cash that we were able to give them, but also through credits. So we have a support of our cloud team, and we'll be doing one-on-one support with each of the businesses and getting them to a place where, from a technical perspective and from a business perspective, they have all the best resources of Google to move their businesses forward. And this is really important to me because, this year alone has been such a hard year for business owners, and for a number of reasons, and particularly for Black-owned businesses, it's been challenging due to the unprecedented and kind of disproportionate impact of COVID-19 in the Black community. And then layer on top of that, all of the instances of racial inequality that we have experienced this year as well. So because of those factors, I was able to kind of pitch this idea of doing a Black Founders Fund, and, getting that support throughout the organization to do that it's been great. And then yesterday, or Tuesday, being able to announce all the founders that were recipients and just talk to folks about their businesses and the amazing things that they're doing in their communities was also awesome. And I just have to say, half of the recipients are Atlanta-based companies. So being able to have that type of impact in the city where I live and am so excited about the ecosystem here was also just a highlight of all of it.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I was scrolling through my social feed and I just started seeing post after post after post of like founders that I know that are like, oh my gosh, I got these funds. And, just it's life-changing for business owners, right? For founders. So it's really special that you and Google and you guys are just supporting in such an incredible way, and real support, meaningful support, not just talking about it.
Yeah.
So how did you go from leveraging this platform that you have at Google? Most people would arrive at a position like that and just think, okay, cool. And now I'm here and we're going to do the things that Google wants to do. How did you navigate this platform and leverage it to do something that was really interesting to you? How do you get people on board?
Yeah, well, when I rejoined Google, I was very clear about the fact that I have a singular focus as far as my life is concerned. I'm really focused on helping entrepreneurs grow their business, and I'm really, really focused on helping underrepresented entrepreneurs. I have my own experiences as an entrepreneur. There are many things in my journey that I felt were unfair, not right. I didn't always feel like I had the support that I needed. And so I went into the conversations for this role saying that what I'm going to do is this. If you guys are on board with this plan, then I'm the right hire. If not, then I'm not. And I think being able to go in with that level of clarity has made it a lot easier for me to get the things done that I want to get done. And also, I think I was hired because I have this unique experience and unique perspective that I think the people around me, the team that I work with, is really grateful for and happy to be pushed in the direction to do more. And then it's kind of a perfect storm. This year has been such a difficult year. Honestly, at the top of the year, I was thinking, I want to get $1 million to underrepresented founders throughout our program, but I was able to even push that ask to be a bigger ask. And then now seeing it kind of have a multiplier effect with other teams. There are other teams that I work with. We have our European counterpart. They just announced a $2 million Black Founder Fund, and our counterpart in Brazil just did $1 million Black Founder Fund. And all of that was kind of spurred by the initial push and idea. But now it's just taken off, which I'm so super excited about. So I think
you've been a catalyst within your organization, even at a company as big as Google.
Yeah. So it's great. I mean, I think it's just the best thing. I'm having a good time in this capacity and in this role, being able to push the envelope a little bit, but then show people like this is what happens when you do things that are not easy, when you do things that are really meaningful and are really considering the customer in this case. And I think everyone is grateful and better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And just to clarify for all of our students listening and everybody else listening, this was a $5 million investment in Black founders, correct?
Yes.
So, I mean, what a huge impact. This is, I mean, all these people that we're talking about, that's real commitment. So from you and from the company. So yeah, really cool. Jewel, what is your purpose? You said it's, you're really interested in helping founders, but do you have a purpose that guides you? And how did you get to that purpose or figure out what that was?
Yes. My purpose is to use the lessons that I've learned to help other people. And the lessons that I've learned have mostly been in business. So I'm thinking about, how can I use my story, my experiences to make sure that other people have an easier road when they are pursuing their dreams and their businesses. Mm-hmm. And then also leveraging the platforms and the organizations that I've been connected to help in that pursuit as well. So that's what I do. That's, people pretty much know if Jewel is in it, it has something to do with entrepreneurs. It has something to do with, a bigger part of the mission is closing the wealth gap. I think that's a huge problem in our country. And so a lot of the work, the macro theme to it is that. But yeah, everything I'm doing, it relates to that.
Yeah. And I should also mention that Collab Capital, which is the fund that you've started with your partners, you guys are raising quite a big fund there for founders. So what is it, like something crazy?
50 million, which yes. It sounds like a big number, but in the context of funds, it's actually not a huge fund. It's still considered a micro fund, if you can believe it. So yeah,
does it feel like a micro fund? No,
it doesn't. It doesn't. It's a big task to raise that amount of money, especially for me. I've at this point I've raised $10 million. So it's a pretty big step up from that amount, but I believe that it's important to put this level of investment into. I mean, our focus is on Black founders, and our focus is also looking at businesses that may be ignored by traditional venture investors. So there is $1 trillion plus opportunity in the market, and so we think that $50 million is a reasonable starting place, but there's obviously a ton more to do there. Mm-hmm. If you think about the amount of underinvestment that's happened over the years in this community, there's so much that we should be doing. So this is why I work on it on the Google side. I work on it on the Collab side, because there's just simply so much that needs to be done. And I, again, feel like I'm uniquely positioned based on my experience to be effective on this particular problem.
That's really great. We have a lot of student questions coming in, so I want to start asking you some of those. You kind of answered this, but Tamara would like to know, how did you know what you wanted to start your company in? She says she has a lot of ideas, but she's not sure which one to go with.
Yeah.
So how do you decide what's the right one?
Tamara, I was in the same boat. I have ideas all the time. I have a little notebook that I keep right here, and I'm always writing down different ideas. But the reason that I decided to pursue PartPick as my kind of first startup is because the idea would not leave me alone. It was just persistent in my ear all the time. I was thinking about it. It kept me up at night. I think those are the types of ideas that you'll just keep thinking about it, keep hearing about it, and I'm a faith-driven person, so in my case, I was getting different signs that this is what I need to be pursuing. But in your case, it might be, you really, really have a deep understanding of the problem, and you see the problem everywhere. You see different examples of it. You hear it when you talk to people. That's something that you might use as a signal that this is the one that you want to pursue. But really, the one other thing I'll give you as a tip to think about is, can you see yourself working on this particular problem for the next 5 to 10 years? Can you see yourself working on this in the long term? That, to me, is the thing that separates sort of the random ideas that you just come up with from the ones that you actually want to go ahead and pursue. If you start a business, you are committing yourself to a whole relationship, if you will, for some years. So just consider that when you're thinking about what's the idea that you want to actually go after.
Yeah. Okay. Tony would like to know, did you have any problems convincing people to give that much money to Black founders? Did you have any naysayers?
Yes, there are always naysayers. Yeah. You have to get used to that. It goes back to those no's that I was getting when I was cold calling. I'm used to no. I'm familiar with it, and I don't let it stop me. And so, yeah, the first answer was no. We can't do this for a number of reasons. But I just kept asking, kept providing different reasons and data why we should do it, and kept finding advocates. That's another thing. Sometimes you might not have the positional power to get something done. You may not know the right people. So you have to be unafraid to go and talk to people, to convince folks to sell it, and then also be able to demonstrate what the impact will be. And so there were many, many, many iterations of proposals and many meetings to get this type of thing done. But, I was committed to the process because I knew that it would have a colossal impact. And also, my biggest thing was the amount is still, in my opinion, a small amount. It's not a negligible amount, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, not a ton. But I'm more concerned with what it will catalyze, what will other people do because they've seen it. And I'm already seeing that it's growing and expanding even from the initial proposal. So that part is what's really exciting to me, is, checking in a year from now and seeing what these companies are able to do because they received this funding, the follow-on funding that comes from it, the number of people they were able to hire, how it supercharges their businesses. That's, to me, what's going to be the most impactful.
Right. And you mentioned a word, advocates. It's such an important thing to build your support system as you go, both inside your company and outside. So advocates, it's such a great concept. Okay, Andrea would like to know, or Andrea, when did you feel like you made it?
I don't feel like I've made it. I'm still very much on the journey. I've learned a lot. I do feel like I know a lot more than I did 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I was just getting started, just coming out of school. But I don't feel like I've made it. No.
I will say that every successful person I know says something to that effect. And so that is a real testament to the fact that you are always learning. And that's the mark of somebody who really is making waves and doing important things, is that they're constantly learning and revising and figuring out how to navigate things differently. So there's always a problem to solve and something to learn. So,
yes.
Okay. Bradley would like to know, how do you even begin to raise that much money? And were you nervous asking Google for that much?
You begin with a conversation. Well, let me take that back. You begin with a plan. So in my case, with a fund, I put together a document just to explain, this is what I'm asking for. This is why I think it's important. This is how we will do it. This is, how we will execute it. Really thinking about the end and kind of working your way back from there. That's one way to do it. And if you think about, so that's the Google side. So starting out with a written document, and I actually think this is applicable across the board for anything that you want to do, whether it's fundraise or even just with a company you might want to start. Writing down your thoughts is really great just to get it out of your head. And then from there is trying to figure out, okay, to make this happen, who do I need to speak to? Who are the stakeholders who needs to be involved? That's important on the Google side. It's also important as you think about fundraising for a company. You just want to think about, from an investor perspective, who might be interested in this. If you're at the earliest stages, you want to talk to your family, your friends, people who already know you and love you and would back you, even not fully understanding whatever it is that you're pursuing. So a target list is also important on both sides, is who can I talk to about this, who might be interested. And then once you have the plan, the list, then you go about practice, actually. Practice the pitch, get in front of people who will be friendly for folks for you to first pitch it to and get good feedback, hear where there might be holes in the story, get as much practice in before you go to people that maybe you don't know as well, or who might not be as friendly to the pitch, and then kind of work your way through that. But it's really about having as many conversations as you can have, honing whatever it is that you're telling, the vision, the pitch, and then having a process after that to follow up with people. I think that's where a lot of people let it drop, is you have these conversations and then there's nothing. You have to be able to follow up, because if you're raising money, you are the one that needs the money, right? So it's not necessarily a high priority for whoever you're talking to, but you have to create a sense of urgency for whoever you're talking to. So that might mean setting a certain deadline, or that might mean, showcasing that there are people who are interested. Sometimes people don't want to be the first one. So you have to kind of showcase that, oh, actually there's a group of folks that are wanting to come in on this. So those are some ideas and tactics. There's lots to be said there, but hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of where to start.
Yep. Bert would like to know, he's graduating this year, and he's asking, should I start a company or look for a job during this trying time?
Yeah. So first, congratulations, Bert, on almost graduating. That's a huge accomplishment. I think that it's possible to... Okay, so I do think it's really great to get experience on someone else's dime or at a company before starting a company, because you can learn so much. Like we keep referring back to, I had 2 years of experience at Google, a year and some change of experience at McMaster-Carr before I started PartPick, and I think that those three and some change years of experience were so valuable to me as I was building the company. One, because I was able to speak with authority about the industry, and I had these skills, the tangible skills of being able to call people up and sell them on something that I think, I wouldn't have been able to do straight out of college. So I do think there is some value in getting experience. However, I don't think that it's a requirement. If you have something today that you think is an amazing idea, you really understand the market, maybe it's something that's geared toward something you learned about in school, or a problem set that your fellow students had, something like that, then I think it's perfectly fine to go ahead and pursue a business even straight out of college. But just have to be mindful of the risks that are involved in starting a business. It's very risky endeavor to go out on your own and start something. So I do think the more that you can de-risk it by getting some more experience, maybe saving up some money, really understanding a bit more about the market that you want to go into, that's how I would approach it.
Michelle would like to know, was there ever a time you felt like giving up?
Yes. There were times I felt like giving up, but I never got too close to the idea of quitting, because I had, when I was building PartPick, I just had so much conviction about the idea and what it would mean if I was able to get it to market. And I had so much evidence and data that we could really build a great business out of it. So sometimes I felt like quitting just because like I'm tired or I'm feeling like I'm not getting the support I need or no one's believing in me. But I could always get myself out of that feeling just because I knew, no, this is supposed to be in the world. I know that we can make this happen. And a lot of times you have to encourage yourself because maybe there won't be someone around you who can give you a pep talk. But I also think it's really important to establish a support system who you can call when you're close to the edge and where you're thinking like, I'm going to give up on this. And the last thing is that sometimes it's okay to stop doing something if it's not working over a long period of time, or if you're figuring out that there actually isn't a customer base for whatever you're trying to sell. It's totally okay to stop working on something and just deciding like, okay, I tried, it didn't work. It's okay. I learned something from it. With everything, it's okay. Failure is totally an option. It's just a matter of what can you learn and do better on the next time. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like failure is also how you look at it, because just because the business did not get off the ground doesn't mean you necessarily like turn it around. It's not necessarily failure. It's a learning opportunity. So you tried it and then you're going to try something else and it's going to be great. You know, you might try 5 things before you figure it out. So, you know,
that's right.
It is what it is. Okay. Last question, because I know we're running out of time. John would like to know, what is one important thing that you think about every day?
One important thing that I think about every day is, what have I done to help somebody? That's, again, going in line with my mission. Is I'm always thinking about, and my purpose is, if the day has gone by and I haven't like taken care of an introduction or really considered what I can do to help propel a business, or even thinking about, now I manage a team, so making sure that they have what they need. That is what I'm considering every single day. And that's pretty consistent, I think, probably throughout my whole life, is I'm always a person trying to be of service to other people. And for me, that works for me. That keeps my cup filled and me happy, if I can be of service to others. So it's something I think about every day.
Well, you definitely are in service of others very often. So we all appreciate it. And we appreciate you being here today. We're definitely out of time. But everybody, please go to our website, find us on social. You can find all of our past shows. You can rewatch this show because Jewel gave you all kinds of amazing advice. And leave us a comment. We want to know what you're up to, and if you have thoughts, questions, all the things. So, yeah, we still have questions coming in, but yeah, we I don't think we can get to them. So, send us your questions, and maybe we'll send them along to Jewel, and she'll answer them. And yeah, so our next speaker is Rachel Spreacher, who is Executive Director of the Office of Partnerships and Development at Atlanta Public Schools. So it's going to be a really interesting talk next week. We also have some really exciting opportunities coming up in terms of internships and grant money and all kinds of things going on. So definitely sign up for our mailing list and keep up to date on the website. Okay. Jewel, do you have any parting thoughts for the students before we take off?
Sure. I just want to say the importance of mentorship. Kashi, I just want to say a public thank you to you. You've been an incredible mentor and friend to me over the past few years. And I was just reflecting on, how great it's been to have you in my life. And I just want to let the students know, like, this is the types of relationships that you can build by reaching out to people and staying connected to people. And now is a great time to do that as you're a student. People love to help students, so you can reach out to folks and they'll be, likely to respond and be helpful to you. And you can, in that relationship, hopefully will be reciprocal for both parties, where you'll learn from them, they'll learn from you. But I just want to make sure that you guys know that that's a really important thing to do as you think about your careers, is to build your advisory boards, have folks in your corner that can help you along the way of your careers. So just wanted to leave that as a nugget for you all to think about as well.
Mentorship is such an important thing. And Julie, you said it right. Both parties in a really great mentorship relationship, both parties get so much out of it. And obviously, knowing you and seeing all the success and the amazing things that you're doing for the world has been a joy to watch. So we're all lucky to have you, especially here in Atlanta. So thanks so much. Okay, students, that's it. That's all the time we have this week. So have a great week. Make the most of the time that you have. It's a unique time, so use it to your advantage. And remember, it's a blessing to be a blessing. So be kind as you go through your day today. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye.